right? So one big challenge that we have to just address is that figuring out what to say can be hard, right? Knowing what to say is the first thing that stops so many people from even getting started. You know, you subscribe to a service and then you sit in front of a blank screen and can't figure out what to say to people.
Well, Dan, thanks for joining us again. If you're joining us for the first time on this one, we've got Dan Stewart, and together we created a company, a product called LCA Nurture, and we're going to go deeper into that. There's always a theme behind it, and today it's a micro theme. And what's the name of it, Dan? It's called relationship ratio.
It's the relationship ratio, because you know how everybody loves to do math, right? Like people wake up and they're like, let's do math. Yeah, I figured let's do some math for them and break it down and help people understand how the data works here so we can help them.
That sounds like a title of a book, relationship ratio, doesn't it?
Like, let's write that book. Let's do it.
I love that already.
Yeah.
All right, let's get right into it. Dude, you've got the controls.
All right, excellent. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So welcome to the desert. And then I put together some slides here because I like to be really deliberate when I'm teaching so that I'm sure everybody gets exactly what they need to get from this session. So in putting this together, I want you to know that we're doing it while focused very much on what actually is going on in the market today. You can't base your decisions without having good data, right? So we have to understand what's going on in the market. Where I am, where Tristan is, and everywhere else in between. It does make a difference as to how you communicate to people. Now, personally, the life I've led is one where I've seen how every goal I set for myself, no matter how big or how small, it's always been more easily achieved through relationships than any other way. Like Tristan, you and I have been friends for a decade, right? And here, we just maybe started something where maybe we collaborate together on writing a book called The Relationship Ratio.
Dude, I'm down.
I mean, if we didn't have a relationship, that sort of thing isn't possible. So, you know, where do these relationships come from? Where do these ideas come from? Where do these sparks come from? Well, we just witnessed that live in real time. It comes inside conversation, period. So, T, you're married, I'm married. You have kids, I have kids. If we fail to engage our spouses and our kids in conversation, we fail to have relationships with them.
That's true.
It works the same exact way with the people that are in our database, right? So who's that past client you enjoyed and yet you're afraid to reach out to? Think of that person right now. Think of them wherever they are, what they're doing, and make a mental note right now. You're going to text that person today. You're going to email them today. You're going to pick up the phone and call them today. Get that conversation started because that's where your money is. If you're not in conversation with people, you're not tapping into all the possible commission that you could generate, right? Pretty straightforward.
Yep.
So let's go a little deeper with some math here, right? The title of this session is the relationship ratio. And I want you guys who are watching this, call out for me in the chat. You know, how many relationships do you need to have a specific number of transactions? I want to know if you know your number. Like, do you have a guess, Tristan? How many transactions would you guess are within, say, 100 contacts?
I would probably, I'm probably going to get it wrong. So I would say 15.
15. Okay. It's a good number. We got some numbers coming in. Crystal says 5. Linda says 10. So whatever number it is you're thinking of, whatever number you're calling out, just keep that in mind as a baseline. If you could track it, if you could track exactly how many relationships you have and then figure out what that number of transactions would that be valuable? I would think it'd be hugely valuable, because instead of trying to chase tons of relationships you might not need or even enjoy, you can focus more time and attention on the people who really are making a difference for you, right? So, Tristan, for 10 years, we've been measuring this data. Every send we've ever made, every single email, every single text, every voicemail drop, every single message that's ever gone out of our system, we've tracked the data.
Dude, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm going to go into some cool data here in a moment, but just high level for right now, if you have 100 people who know you, on average, there should be about 12 transactions per year within those relationships.
Ooh, look, Linda, right? And I, if we average it out, we almost got it
pretty
right.
Close. Yeah, pretty close.
Good job, Linda.
It's awesome. So let's walk through how this actually happens, right? So, some people are watching this are going, 12 transactions. I did that last month. And other people are like, 12 transactions in 1 year? Really? So whichever side of that number you're on is fine. Let's just recognize that's a goal. You set some goal for yourself, some GCI goal, you set it up here, and then you've got to build a staircase of actions to go and get it, right? So the first thing that comes before you reach that goal is obviously you have to make sales. Well, your sales come from opportunities, period. I call them opportunities. Some people call them leads, right? Same thing. I think the best leads come from relationships. Like, would you rather have a referral from a past client or a stranger who's now in your database? Like, which one is more likely to turn into a commissionable event for you?
True.
Right? It's the relationships that really make the difference there. And again, as we've said, those live in conversations. And guess what? If you want to start a conversation, you have to ask a question, right? So now I want you to imagine how many of each of these things need to happen to hit a specific goal, right? So let's walk through this together. Let's imagine a goal GCI, right? How much money is that? And how many sides do you need to have to hit that goal? And if you're not familiar with the term side, it's just a transaction. How many units you need to sell to achieve that specific amount of GCI. Which, Tristan, I've learned this, that term's not used all over the country. So, I'll break it down.
That's
well,
cool.
If you think about the number of appointments you need to have to produce that number of transactions, like, if you're a buyer's agent and you're working an open house, I mean, how many people really need to come in to turn into a potential transaction versus your past client telling their sister, oh my God, you have to use Tristan. He's the best agent in the world. He's the only one I would ever let you use. Like, which of those is much more likely to close? Obviously, it's the one with the relationship. So how many relationships, right? How many do we actually need to get appointments?
Yeah.
And that's where that number shows up, because if we're going to use 12 and you want to have 12, you need about 100 relationships to get there. If you want to have 24, obviously you're going to double it, right? And in some cases, you'll be able to generate more because of local market conditions or the strength of your personality. Who you are definitely makes a difference here. Keep in mind, this data is pulled across 10 years of thousands and thousands of agents and hundreds of millions of sends that we've made. So don't forget the purpose of the conversation is to build a relationship and discover the transactions. And then there has to be a certain number of questions that you ask to get to the idea of the conversation. So each of these is a ratio unto itself, right? And I'll just click all that so we can see it. So the relationship ratio that we're really focused on is this upper quadrant, the relationships that turn into the goal, right? And to activate that, to make that happen, it's really about asking the right questions. So we should talk a little bit about, gosh, what are the right sort of questions? How do we figure that out? How do we know what to say to people to produce the kind of responses that we want to see? Now, Tristan, when you started, did the person who trained you sit down and walk you through how much money you wanted to earn and what it would take to get there?
They did. That was actually one of the very first things that we sat down
Yeah.
and did, which is great because they gave me a clearer vision of what I could possibly get to, which is nice.
Mhm. And, I know you well enough to know that if we could share with that Tristan what this Tristan here today is earning, like you wouldn't have believed it.
No,
You,
not
you know,
even
you wouldn't have
close.
believed it, right?
Not even close.
And I think you're a really great example of the idea of the relationship ratio because you've become extraordinarily well known and liked. Like you have made a commitment to serve other people in a way that's very public, right? That's a generous thing to do, to give of yourself so consistently and valuably year after year after year. So you're at a place now where there are a lot more people who know you than you can possibly know, right? So
True.
if we send a message from you to everybody and everybody in your database, and it appears to be from you, you're going to get an astronomical number of replies from all those people, right? So this is where it becomes very important to talk about the difference between what we would do for one individual versus what we do overall. Okay. Because if Tristan loads in thousands and thousands and thousands of agents all over the country that know him and he starts conversations with him, that's not necessarily going to lead to transactions, right? We want to think about who should be in this database that we're sending to in terms of what's most going to influence our income. Right? So think about your area. Are you farming a neighborhood? Do you have a club you're a member of? Are there, do you have commitments at church, people you meet there, parents of kids that your kids go to school with? There's all sorts of ways you can cultivate this. And the questions and the conversations that you'd have with those groups of people could be different. Right? So one big challenge that we have to just address is that figuring out what to say can be hard, right? Knowing what to say is the first thing that stops so many people from even getting started. You subscribe to a service and then you sit in front of a blank screen and can't figure out what to say to people. And those of you who can figure that out, well, then the struggle is, when do you say it? Is there a great day of week or time of day? And then how much time should go between the messages? Like how many messages are too many? And, how often do you continue saying it over time? These are all things that we've been studying for a decade. And, all of that is stuff that Tristan and I have had lots of conversations about. We accept questions from agents on this all the time in LabCoatAgents and also just in our dedicated Facebook group, What to Say Now. And this is such an important thing for me to emphasize because I learned a lesson from my mentor years ago. And like I can hear his voice right now telling me if you've got good data, you can make good decisions. Every place in my business that I used to struggle, I heard his voice. Well, what's actually going on? Let's look at the math. Let's see what really the situation is. And, this picture on the screen, Billy is this South Carolina raised farmer guy who's just so laid back. And he also happens to be CEO of the world's largest sterile glove manufacturer. So they've got manufacturing plants across China and Malaysia. He employs thousands of people and sells billions of dollars a year in product. And, what I learned from him carries through in everything that I do in my day to day. And it shows up most of all in our Queen Bee role. So there's a book called Clockwork that was written by Mike Michalowicz. And I know you know Mike, Tristan.
Yep.
great guy. He wrote Profit First and a bunch of other really good business books.
Yeah.
In Clockwork, he introduces this concept of the queen bee role, which is the most important thing that you do at your company. The thing where, you might drop lots of other balls, but as long as you keep this one up, things are going to be okay. And, for me at my company, this is about creating content that produces the results our members are looking for, right? Studying that data, knowing that our messages will actually work is the queen bee role here. We just can't let that drop. And so what we've learned is what we built into LCA Nurture. And what that means is there's 41 times per year that your past clients in your sphere need to hear from you, right? And the way we break that down is there should be 17 emails. So that's once every 3 weeks throughout the year. And this is a special type of email. It's not a sales message. It's a relationship message. It's a conversation starting message. And that email baseline isn't enough. You get way better results when you combine it with text and voicemail drops. So text and voicemail are kind of like a 1-2 combo punch. Birthdays, transaction anniversaries, once per quarter, sending a lead harvesting message, and then up to 6 holidays per year that you actually get to choose from. So sending that messaging to those, just like we'll use the relationship ratio. If you had 100 people and you sent these messages to them over the course of a year, you would have the conversations you need to find on average 12 transactions per year. And we can often produce more because we're supplementing that content with social media and also with handwritten cards, right? So all of this is built inside the service that you mentioned, Tristan, LCA Nurture. We collaborated to build this and work on it. There'll be a link for it later. I mean, we're here today to talk about data. And one of the most important things to consider in data would be open rates. Like everybody knows open rates when it comes to email. And do you know the average open rate for email in real estate? It's so low. It's
for
sad.
real estate. For real estate.
You
said low. I mean, I'm going to guess lower than I thought. 7%.
Oh, it's higher than that. It's 18%.
Oh, wow.
18% is what MailChimp reports. Last time I looked, MailChimp was reporting 18% for real estate, and Constant Contact, I think, was at 14%, if I remember correctly.
Damn, dude.
Now,
that is low.
That's low, right? That's low, but I don't think it's outside of people's expectations. Like,
that's true. It's
we have a comment here that 10% was expected. So, Constant Contact and MailChimp are doing better than that 10%.
Yeah.
And yet they're not working nearly as well as what members of LCA Nurture are seeing. You've got to get your message delivered, right? So having over 99% of the content being delivered is a huge thing. But just open rates alone, our messages are averaging 38.2%. Okay. The reason for this, I cannot stress enough, is because if you've got good data, you can make good decisions. So, for 10 years, we're studying, well, what works and what doesn't work. So we've run all sorts of crazy tests here. And some of them are with things like subject lines. So, if you've got a subject line in an email and you include an emoji or you don't include an emoji, which one do you think is going to win? Like, well, let's ask the audience. Which email do you think would work better? The one with the emoji or the one without the emoji? Emoji, emoji, emoji. Everybody's saying with emoji. Yeah. This was my expectation too. I really thought, my gosh, including the emoji is going to make a big positive difference on the open rate. Turns out it's neutral. The data says it's neutral. You want to know what the number one thing you can do with a subject line to increase the open rate? Yeah, everybody does, of course. Add a question mark.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Dude, I got it. I was thinking add their name, but dude,
Mind blown, right? Question mark. A question mark influences the open rates in a really positive way.
No crap.
Yeah, it's so cool. Now, I'm going to show you 2 emails here. And again, this is the result of a test that we've run. So, on the left, we've got an HTML email. That's the kind of stuff we all get in our inbox every day. And on the right, we have a text-based email. Like, which one do we think is going to win, HTML or text?
You know what?
I'm looking for these comments. I want to know.
I'm gonna go with text.
Well, Linda says HTML. Mark says HTML. Let's keep those answers coming in.
I'm still gonna go with text.
Okay.
Just because I was wrong the last 4 times I guessed with you.
Crystal says she's scared to guess wrong. I love it.
Crystal, I'm feeling you on that. I feel traumatized now.
The best thing here is it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. It's what the data says.
Okay.
So, we can have a hunch, we can have a belief, but let's just do what the data says and get better results. So, Tristan, you're right. The text-based email is the one that outperforms. And the big reason for that is that, our brain gets a message like this and we say, okay, that's meant for more people than just me. Right? If it looks like this, we know it's not just for me. If it looks like this, oh, I have to read this to really understand. And then if it's written well, I get sucked in a little bit. Now I have to finish reading it. And oh my gosh, there's a question at the end. I'd better respond. Right? So, a text-based email is going to be more effective when it's well written. That makes a big difference. So I'll show you the data on this send. It went to 147 people, did not have a perfect open rate. There were some bad email addresses in that list that was sent to, but look at the open rate, 46%.
What was the subject line for that, dude?
The subject line is, let's kick it up a notch, right? So it's got some flavor and some spice. And I don't mind sharing with you that we wrote this for a client of ours named Mitch Riback. Do you know Mitch personally? Yep. He's awesome.
Yep, I do.
So he's a Floridian now, but Mitch was raised in Boston, right? So if you're writing for Mitch, you can't say, you seem like a nice person. You have to write, you seem like that wicked awesome kind of real estate professional, right? You want to get some personality in there. Make it your own, really make it fit you. Because you have to train your readers to expect to get good things from you and expect to want to read it. I've just told you that the text outperforms the HTML, and yet that does not mean there isn't a time or a place for HTML messaging. In fact, we use it. Here at the beginning of the month, every month, we send out a communication plan. And this is busy being delivered to members across the US and Canada and Mexico as we speak. And it has content in here designed to help them through this. Now, why would we choose to send it this way instead of like a personal message? And the reason is the expectation with a text message is to get replies. The expectation with an HTML message is to inform or to sell, right? That's why our brains kind of shortcut this. And
it makes sense.
The motto I try to live by in building my company is that if it looks like marketing, it's safe to ignore. That's my, go ahead, tweet that, right? That's my quote for the day.
Dude, I like
looks
that.
like marketing, it's safe to ignore, right? So we'll go a little deeper here with the concept of content optimization.
Let's go. I like it.
Having all of this data is a really wonderful thing because of all the wonderful advancements with technology today. Google has a tremendous AI that's available for businesses to leverage.
Yep.
And, one of them is used for natural language. Okay. So what we've done is we've taken all those messages we've ever written and we fed them into Google's natural language AI. Okay. So it's gone through and it's broken them down for syntax, for tone, for intent. And we have this AI trained to really understand what's going to work and what's not going to work. And this lets our internal engine predict the effectiveness of our content before we push it out. Like it's an amazing time we live in to be able to do this, right? So I'm going to teach you some of the things that we've learned from this that will be useful for you. Here we're looking at an individual email message, and we got to break this down into sections. So first section everyone's familiar with is a subject line. Right? Now I've told you the number one way to influence your open rate is to add a question mark, and yet it doesn't mean you always need to ask a question. Google does a very effective job of sequestering content as needed. And if you have a subject line that's in line with the content of the message, you'll get a better open rate. Yep. Now, for topic, if you choose something that most people associate positive feelings with, and then you close with a call to conversation, that's the sort of approach that reliably produces new transactions for agents. In fact, the agent who sent this message found between $1.5 and $2 million of closings just from one message.
That's insane, dude.
So, yeah, there's so much here, and again, we've worked on all of this as part of the Queen Bee reporting, and we share that data with you from LCA Nurture. So, when you're in your account, you just go in there and you pick and choose what you which messages you'll use. And by the way, if you don't have an account, get an account. It's ridiculously inexpensive. It's either $47 per month or $470 for the year. That includes all the touches, the text, the voicemail drops, and all those links. By the way, I know that Jake has put them in the chat. Thank you for doing that, Jake. The place that you can go do that is here. It's happygrasshopper.com/meet LCA Nurture. So, I'm happy to hang out for a bit. I know we had a tight time here today, Tristan. I kind of used up every moment we possibly have, but
you did a good job, dude. That was awesome.
Thank you. Try to slam it all in there, make it work.
That was solid. I loved it. Great information. I texted you. I have an outline for the book, by the way. I didn't know we were going to talk about that, but I already have an outline, dude. I did a whole course on it. So I would love to work on that with you and see what else we can add to it and just build it.
That sounds awesome. Done and done. We're all over it.
All right, everybody, go to happygrasshopper.com, meet LCA Nurture, and take a look at it. We've been using it for a while now. It's good. It's very good. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. I posted it I grabbed a little image of two things. One, the amount of touches. I posted it on LabCoats. And then I scheduled the one because I would have gotten it wrong if I didn't go against what I thought. But HTML versus text.
Yeah.
I grabbed that and I'm asking everyone on LCA later today. I want to know what they say.
Great.
So watch for that one.
I love it. Thanks. Well, thanks for having me today, Tristan. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody for being here. If I can do anything to help or serve, I'm available. Just let me know.
Thanks, everybody.
All right. See y'all. Bye.